guys, I'm Sean from Bluehub, and today I wanted to go through setting up the MRP for different locations with you. Now a prerequisite to this video should be setting up locations, and this video is just a follow-up on how you can set up the MRP for those locations. Now just to run you through that, the reason you need to set up the locations in order to run the MRP is because every location is going to need specific supply rules against it when running the MRP, so the MRP knows whether to transfer goods in, whether to purchase goods, or whether to build goods. To start with this, firstly we're going to go into our settings and then our reference books. We're then going to go into our locations and our bins, and here we'll have our locations that we've already set up. Once again, if you need any help with that, please look at a different video on our channel we have where it is just about setting up locations. From here, we'll have our general location settings, and in there we'll have our supply rules. Now, in order for the MRP to work with this location, or tell you to do anything with it, you're going to need at least some supply rules in here. The way this works is, firstly, we're going to press plus to add a new supply rule. We're going to need to give it a name, so let's just call it generating demand, for example, or generating stock. And then we can save. Obviously, first we're going to need to actually customize what we want this to do. So, firstly, we can select between either having this rule affect all or specific products. This means if you do have different rules for each product within your warehouse, or if you maybe you want to purchase some but build others, you can break it down in that way. What I will say is, if that is the way you want to do it, providing a assembly item or a buildable item doesn't have a supplier against it, the MRP isn't going to tell you to purchase it anyway. So keeping your data cleansed correctly can help with that. But if you sometimes purchase it and sometimes assemble it, that's when you will need to do it product by product. But anyway, if we just move on the assumption we're doing this for all of our products, we can look at our first option here, which is in response to demand, plan action. Now this means that in Deer we have different types of demand. We can have demand for sales, we can have demand for stock levels, and we can have demand for assemblies. They're kind of the three main types of demand we have in Deer. So sales demand is if we need to sell that product, obviously. To meet stock level demand is if we've fallen below the amount of stock we want on hand. We'll need to either get or build some more. And then we have assembly demand, and that's we need some of the stock to build something that we have on order. Similar to sales, but instead of it being for a sales order, it's going to be for an assembly or production order. We can cater these rules to work for any of those different scenarios. So once we have seen that demand and of any of those three, we're going to plan an action. Now this means when we run our MRP, it's going to plan to do whatever we enter into this box here. So starting out, our supply action, we can either purchase or transfer. There would be an assembly option in here as well. However, this location is not set to allow for that. So I will change or show you that just shortly after we've set up our first rule here. So for now, I'm just going to do a purchase from, and then here we can select a couple of options, whether we want this to be the supplier with the lowest price, the supplier with the lowest lead time, or the supplier that's most recently been purchased from. Now this information can all be set up against the product, so providing you have multiple suppliers against your product with multiple prices, obviously the lowest one will be used if you select this option, using their lowest fixed price. If you use this option, it's going to be the one with the lowest lead time, providing you have lead times. Otherwise, it's just going to select the top supplier in the alphabetical order. And then finally here, we have the latest supplier, which is just going to be what is in the latest supplier field against the product, and the last supplier used to purchase that product. What we often see is using the lowest price. However, you could work by the lowest lead time if you are trying to meet demands as soon as possible. But a lot of companies don't use lead times at all within Deer, because they're only used for the MRP, so they won't have this information from the get-go. I'm just going to go with lowest price here. And from here on, our MRP would work for making purchases to bring stock in. So that's technically set up now, and we could save this and say it's complete, providing we fill in an action at the bottom here to do nothing. So now that that's done, if we went and ran the MRP, it's going to give us some purchase orders to create. Alternatively, what we can do is instead we can bring a new supply rule above our purchase order, and we can set this up to transfer. We want to transfer from our main warehouse, so if we select our main warehouse, we can now transfer stock to a subsidiary location if we have the stock available in our main warehouse. We can then say we're going to take either all of the stock that we can from that warehouse until it meets that warehouse's minimum before reorder, or until it meets that warehouse's stock level. Just to clarify, stock level is minimum before reorder plus your reorder quantity, which gives you your stock level. In my case, I'm just going to select before reorder, so we can go down to our before reorder point, and then we can do this to fulfill either the full quantity or as much as we can. So if you only ever want to do a full order on a transfer, you'll click the top option, but if you don't mind transferring 10 out of the 20 goods available, you can use the partial demand quantity option. Now that that's set up, what this is going to do is it's going to firstly see if we have demand. Providing we do have some demand that we need to meet, it's going to try and transfer products from main warehouse to that location. So if the stock is available before we have more than our minimum before reorder, it's going to try and transfer the stock to meet that demand to our secondary location. Then, if it can't do that because there isn't enough stock in the main warehouse, or that stock doesn't exist in the main warehouse, it will then purchase with the lowest price in our location. So it'll create purchase orders for us to the CF location and try and purchase it. I can then save that, and that rule is now going to do that for us. If I now go back into here and I change this off of a co-manufacturing location into a shop floor location, and then save, and go back into our supplier rules and press plus again, we should now be able to drag this up, and we'll have an extra option here called produce. What produce is going to allow us to do is either assemblies or production bombs within the location in order to build the amount of stock we need. So if I drag this one to the top, we can then say we're going to build it in main warehouse to meet until the capacity of the stock is empty. So what this allows us to do is, in response to our demand, we're going to build as many of the products that we can in the main warehouse. So if main warehouse is where we're actually building our stock, that's what we'd use. If we had a different location for building, we may use that instead. Then, once we've built that stock, if there is any we can build, we're then going to try and transfer that stock and any additional stock that we can use from main warehouse to our current location. And then, if after building the stock and transferring it, we still don't have enough to meet our demand, we're then going to begin purchasing with our lowest price. So you can see how this can start to get quite complicated and quite advanced in the way you actually want to handle these, and they're quite unique scenarios, which is why typically when we advise on this, it's more of a teaching how it works rather than setting up these unique scenarios for you, just because it's useful for you to have an understanding of how this is actually going to work together. But I hope this video was helpful in helping you understand that, and maybe helping you understand why the MRP isn't currently working, because you don't currently have these rules set up. But that's everything from me for now. If you have any questions, do leave them in the comments. This is quite a complicated subject, and one other thing I should probably mention is that you'll then need to set this up for each of your locations so that the rules can work in conjunction as well, which gives it that extra step of complexity. But once again, when you're getting into those kind of complicated subjects, it's best to have a direct talk and we can work around your business. But this should help you understand the basics of what you need to know. That'll be all from me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.